Shore, I'm the president of the POA, and we have been working on this document for 6-7 months. And it became obvious to us in the POA that either people weren't reading it or there was something they didn't like in it. So the document, in my view, is in pretty good shape. But apparently, you all don't share that assessment.
No.
Okay, fine. First of all, I ask that if you have something to say, you raise your hand and tell me you have something to say. Let's keep it civil, okay? The intention of this is to do one run-through of the document. I am going to read every single word if you want me to do that, okay? And I've got people taking notes back there. If there's something that you have, I'm more than welcome to have you come stand up and say, I've got a comment, or I've got a bitch, or whatever you want to say. But I do ask you to be civil, okay? At the end of the night, this is going to go on a shelf. We are not going to roll this out. We at the POA made an assessment that there's too much unknown by you members, so we are not going to roll this document out. But what I want to do today is understand your concerns, and we can change them to fix those, okay? That's what we want to do. That's what we're here for, okay? And I know half you don't believe me. That's fine. So we are doing the rules and regulations. This is something that's dictated by the bylaws to be done periodically. Hasn't been done for 7 years, 8 years. So we are taking that on right now. What you're going to see in my charts here is you're going to see every word that's in the document. Okay? And at the bottom of the page, most of the pages, you'll see a citation. So for example, this came from the bylaws, book 5503, page 3039, article 10. Okay? You can take that number and you can go to the POA website and you can look up that document if you have any questions.
Jay, the speaker is reverberating pretty badly here. If your volume went down just a little bit, it might be easier to
Okay. I don't know how to turn the volume down. I'll just pull this a little bit away. Got it. What the rules and regulations are intended to do are to take the founding documents and put them in a form where members can use them so they obey the founding documents. In the last 4 months or so, I've read all the documents multiple times, and it's amazing how right on mark most of those older documents, like the PED, really are. Do we have any non-members here? Do we have any non-POA members? Okay, good. We will look at every section in the amended R&R document. I'll show you where the words come from, where the direction comes from, and there may be some content that explains how those rules should be followed. Okay? They are an update of the 2018 rules and regulations. Now, you're going to hear people say, yeah, those are 8 pages long and yours are 40 pages long. And that's exactly right. They know the math. I will tell you that the 2018 document was inadequate to address concerns that some of the state agencies haven't liked. Okay? So we felt like we had to do the whole thing. We're getting to it, so that's why we rewrote the whole document. There are more words.
I just have a question. Who told us that we need to do that? From whom came
rules tell us to do it first. We have bylaws that say you have to do this document. That's the first thing. The second thing is the FAA gets to say what we do in a private airport. The Florida DOT gets to say what we do in a Florida airport. We have specific direction from those two agencies, and I'll show that to you when we get there. First of all, I spent a lot of time on Facebook. None of it, not all of it very good. But the number one question asked is, why aren't you doing the 90% vote? And the answer is, because we don't have to, and we're not supposed to. The 90% vote is for any change that changes the limitations on the landing strip, the runway, the taxiway, the facilities. That's the only time that we have to go with 90% vote. And if you've done any study on the Travolta decision, that was the decision that showed us that we have to do the 90% thing. But actually, the 90% vote is written in the PUD. Article 14, Continuity of Airport Facilities, Book 2126, page 1566, I believe. So is everybody okay with the 90% number?
No, you're not. No.
Okay, why not?
Quick question.
No, there are items which,
May I ask you a quick question on the 90%?
go ahead.
Okay, so if you don't have the 90%, doesn't it say you have to have 30%, which is approximately, what, 400 or so people here? You still have to get a
I don't-
percentage of the people. It's in the, Florida statutes, right there. So,
Okay.
don't you just have to do that?
You can bring it over and show me.
No, if you weren't have to, but I'm saying, before you tell people that you don't have to have that, don't you know that it's in the Florida statutes, that you at least have to have 30% if it's non-related to the airport? It's in the statute. No, I'm asking.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing.
The new package of rules and regulations contain things like dock rules. I think this is something which we can do as a board. But we also talk about restriction of the use of the airport to certain people, like CFIs and BPEs.
Yes.
And this is something where we limit their use of the airport more than it is limited right now.
Okay.
And in my understanding,
Okay, hang on.
is that
We will get to that.
Can't hear it over there.
Maybe try using that microphone. Hand it to him. Well, it has to. Somebody can do it.
Okay, we can limit things that the FAA tells us we have to do, or FDOT tells us we have to do. Two things that the FAA won't let a private airport do is take money. Okay? If somebody wanted to fly, say, a check ride with the DPE, if they're a member of the POA, they can do that no problem. That's not a problem. If they try to do that with a non-member, then that's not allowed. That's a commercial enterprise that we aren't authorized to do. So there's categories. We can deny the DPEs the use of the runway. We can.
the DPE is okay. If we have a DPE in here who is living in here and he is doing check rides, so it's his job to do check rides. And if he's doing it for somebody from outside, he's doing a check ride, and it's his job. And if he's doing it with somebody from inside,
If he's inside the airport and he's doing a check ride on a member, he can charge $1,000, $2,000, whatever he wants.
this is not commercial.
We are not a commercial airport and we're not allowed to do commercial stuff here. So if he's doing a check ride on somebody off of the airport, then he is doing commercial business which isn't authorized in our PUD. Okay, we have a PUD that says you do this, you cannot do that.
What's the reference in the PUD for that statement? That you can't do
Oh,
commercial operations? That needs to be read out loud.
Well, commercial, and then he's getting money for it, not commercial that it's commercial picnic. I think we'll get by that thing that tells you what you can do. Okay? Are you satisfied with what I said?
No, I'm not satisfied, but I would say in the complete context. I'm not satisfied because I still think it doesn't matter. If the DPE is doing a check ride for you as a member and charging you $1,500, this is the same job of the DPE as if he's doing for somebody from outside. And I'm come to another point. It's like we can be happy that we have DPEs and CFIs in our community, and they are a key point to the safe operation in here. And I'm in favor that we support those people, that we don't put stones in their way and make sure that they move out of Spruce Creek. This is something which we can't accept.
Okay.
We have 15 or 1,000 pilots in here.
So I'm going to have to cut you off because we've got to get moving. But I understand what you're saying. The rules that the FAA has will not let that happen, should not let that happen. Now, you can say, well, screw the FAA, why are we worried about that?
Jay,
They can shut us down.
would y'all, it would settle it if you would show us in the FARs where it says that.
It's not in the
Oh,
FARs.
you're right, it's not.
It's not. It's in our PUD.
Okay, it's in your PUD.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've lived here 30 years. How long have you lived here?
8.
8. Okay, so in the 30 years, I've seen a flight school, I've seen an FBO, I've seen different people here that are teaching and everything else, and there's never been a problem. When you said that there was something in 2018, can you show that to us? There was concern, because I've actually been up to Tallahassee and I can't find any reference to that. And last but not least, when I was in Tallahassee, any enforcement action that would have been out there has been disbanded by 23. Yes, and I have my own tab stuff too.
I need this back.
Okay, no problem.
You
Where do
can't
we
take
look
that.
at?
That's
Well,
the
these are your
document.
rules. Where's the FAA say? These are your proposed rules.
No. These
Your
are
proposed.
hang on.
Okay.
These are the rules, the old rules that were written in 2018
Okay.
on how we use the PUD and the C&Rs to write down what we do here at Spruce Creek. Doesn't have anything to do with the
No,
FAA.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now, where's the stuff that shows that you had 30%, at least 30% of people vote on this?
We don't think that's a requirement.
No, that is a requirement. It's in the statute.
Okay,
So that's not that.
got it. We will. Okay, it's interesting what you guys do, but that's okay.
Well, it's facts.
Okay,
Hi,
we got a lot of stuff going here.
I'm Sharon Sarah, and I live in the community. I've been here for the last 30 years. I'm also a lawyer in the area. I've been a lawyer for the last 30 years in the state of Florida. And it seems to me right now we're going to get nowhere with this particular meeting because there's a disagreement as to how to interpret what the FAA wants, what FDOT wants. I am well aware that FAA does not get involved in HOA matters with regards to air parks.
Right.
You can make your own rules. Our rules have a continuity bylaw that was part of the John Travolta case
Right.
32 years ago.
Right.
Okay, it was a very easy case for Travolta to win because the POA was basically ultra-virus with regards to the 90% rule.
Bingo.
So now we need to sit and we need to decide how we are going to get together as a community to solve this problem, because we don't need an us against them situation. We need to have an advisory committee formed with a cross-section of this community before any decision making is made beyond consolidation.
Okay, that's a great
And I think
recommendation.
that we need to have people step up. I will step up as an attorney. We don't need to be paying attorneys for everything that goes on in this community. We need to use our people resources here. We have an extreme amount of brain power in this community
I will take
and
your
experience.
I will take your comment because I think it's a great one.
So I would,
Sue's
with
taking
Robert
it.
rules, I would like to go ahead and I would like to go ahead and vote on whether or not we should go ahead and form a advisory committee of a cross-section. I'd like to see people step up and volunteer. We can go through applications and then decide, and we need to table this entire issue until after the first of the year when people are available.
Okay.
I just don't feel, you may have the best interest of Spruce Creek in mind, but you know what? Right now, there is a total disagreement in how it's being interpreted.
Right.
And we need to get to the bottom of what the real interpretation should be. And we need to have level heads going through this and pouring through it, and not just have one lawyer who's paid outside of the community making decisions, because this is a community that needs to be together on this. And we don't look for what we can do, we look for what we should do. And someone made that comment to me the other day, and it makes total sense. We need to get together as a community and make decisions that are best for the majority, and not just best for some insulated group that's
Let me say it a
coming
little
in.
bit differently. We need to make decisions that are best for the community. Not an individual, the best for the community.
Exactly.
Right.
But the community is speaking out. This is
And
not
we
best
are
for the
listening,
community.
which is why we are here.
Well, I think the problem is that you're interpreting things and it's not completely correct. Okay, I can tell you as an attorney, I've looked at it, it's not completely correct. There are missing pieces, and everything is gray in the law, and the FAA is not as involved as you're made to believe, and neither is FDOT. There are ways that this community can get together and do it in a proper form that doesn't violate any statutes, any rules, any regulations by agencies, but we need to formulate a committee of intelligent people to make recommendations.
How about this? How about this? We've done a lot of work here. We've identified all the issues.
I don't think you have, and that's the problem.
No.
And I am perfectly willing to look at all of your recommendations and the things that you think are important. But those aren't the only things that are important to all of us. Right now, we're focused on the development outside and flooding in our community. In about 3 months, we're going to be facing hell again.
Right.
And we don't need to be focused on banners and things that don't matter. Lights on houses. I have never seen an abuse of any of that in this community in the last 30 years.
Well, hang on a second. There is abuse here in the community. People are doing things that are not authorized, specifically not authorized by the PUD.
But then you know what? The PUD needs to inform them properly without sending them cease and desist orders or letters which have no legal bite, but people are afraid of them, okay? You are not sitting down as a community member and discussing with them what you think they're doing wrong. They don't even know they're doing anything wrong if they are doing anything wrong.
We never have sent a cease and desist to a person who we didn't already speak to.
I would like to see how much you've spoken to them and whether or not you utilize the rules properly. You need to demonstrate that. Look at Jay. I know that your heart is in this. Obviously, people don't get on the board and volunteer when their heart is not in it. But I think sometimes it's misled and it's not properly informed sometimes. And we need to utilize the expertise in this community to make sure we are all properly informed.
Okay, what I hear is So what I hear is you're not interested in knowing what we think the rule.
No, I'm interested in you sending us out what you think it is, and then we will form a committee and we'll determine whether or not it is actually what it is supposed to be.
We have done that.
No, you have not. Jay, I tell you what.
Yeah, they were on.
Even if you think you
Can you please give me the stage for a minute here? We have given everybody that's on the POA mailing list the links to every single version of this we have done.
Alright, say versions and versions and versions. These consolidated rules that the POA board and all the members can go over and make sure that things are being done properly.
So all that I've been doing, writing to you guys
That's right, it's a
on
waste of time.
everything that I've been doing, writing these pages and doing versions, and nobody was reading it.
No, that is the fault of all of us for believing things are being done right. And then we get an email from somebody who points out what's happening, and we all, the sleeping giant awakened, okay? And now we know that things are being done without any of us approving them. We will live with these.
Okay, let's let somebody else speak.
Answer her question first.
Go ahead.
Having spent a considerable amount of time working on this and having actually some exposure to it for a number of years, I'd say maybe we ought to, with all these new volunteers who are so well informed, you might want to actually listen to the attorney who's prosecuted the cases here and what his opinion is.
30 years ago.
Bullshit.
So let me ask a question. What do we have to do for the community? What?
Establish a committee of volunteers to be an advisory committee, and we will go over every single rule and check it out, and it will not cost you a dime. And he can look over what's already been done instead of charging us for every hour that he spends on these things. Would you pay the bill yourself?
Yeah, we do.
I'm serious. You spend our money against our bill and.
Wait a minute. It was my money too.
Yeah, but if you're already.
It was my money too.
Percentage of it, okay? This is an overall thing where we need to take care of things that are.
Get back to the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take sit down, please, sir.
Let's proceed. Who's the gentleman that just said we should listen to the attorney?
Mel.
Bill Stanley?
Yes.
Mel, now the attorney you're talking about is Dan Webster, right?
Let him conduct a
Isn't
meeting. If
Dan
you wanna
also
talk to me,
on
do
a
it
corporate file with you for a business in the fly-in?
Okay, hang on a second. We're going to take a vote here. Who wants to see what we've got in the document here? Who wants to see it? Does everybody want to? The presentation can go as quick as you can read.
No.
No, you don't want to see it?
I've read it.
Okay, then if you're done,
I've
then
got it right here, I've got my notes.
feel free to.
We'd like, we should.
If you're leaving. Okay, who is not reading their email? Who is not getting their email?
I've been here 40 years.
Jay, I can shed some light on it. Jay, I can shed some light on why they're not getting it. You're using Google Groups, and Google Groups will not send a certain message right there. And so you're not using a listserv or anything else, you're just using Google Groups to get it out.
I don't think we're using Google Groups.
No, you are. Check it out. If you want some help with that.
Okay, thank you. I'll get it fixed. Okay, so we do have people that want to see the presentation, want to see what the factors are, what we can go back to on what we've got down in paper. And if you're not one of those people that want to see the presentation, you're more than welcome to go.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for the work you've done on this. A couple of questions. when they were looking at development on the golf course, they required that you went and got 90% of the people voting on the golf course building issue. But when you're working on these issues with who should be able to rent airplanes and do what on the airport, you're telling us you don't need the 90% issue. So I'm a little confused why you need it on one issue where you had legal advice and you went with the 90% on a non-airport issue, but with airport issues, you're not looking for 90%
So
participation.
let me
That's first part of the question. Second part, I, like you, I pay my dues here. I was, when I came here in 2012 or so, there was someone renting airplanes here. When I came back later, they couldn't rent airplanes. They were gone. They were moved to Daytona. One of my neighbors rented airplanes here, and then a year later I asked him how he was flying. He said, not as much. The airplanes were moved to Massey. I don't know whose airplanes he was renting, but I mean, we're a flying community, and we should be fostering people flying. When I read the agreement with the FDOT, it broke into two different categories. One for residents, and residents had to invite aircraft and people in some format. But it separated out the commercial operations. Commercial operations were deemed to be inviting people who were their customers in to do business with them. And it seems like that's being discouraged by the POA, not to our benefit, and probably without, that's changing the airport rules without a 90% vote. So I'd hope you'd clarify how you're differentially applying the 90% rule to the airport and to the golf club differently.
Okay, first of all, the issue of renting airplanes. The PUD has prohibited renting airplanes from day one. Whether you like it or not, that's in the PUD. And I can, say again?
Which PUD?
The original PUD had a list of what each community, the private community, the commercial community could do.
I agree.
And renting airplanes wasn't in it. Now, should a fly-in community, hang on. Should a fly-in community have places to rent airplanes?
Yes.
Not my job to make that decision. That was what the PUD said.
Can you have a roofing company in one? Yes? Anyone?
The PUD does allow other commercial operations, like
Which PUD?
Scott's. I'm talking about the PUD.
The corporate center.
It's at 95.
95, the
You
95
just told
version.
me you didn't know what the corporate center
But
was.
if you don't
As
say
the
it's limited
president
to that.
of Spruce Creek, you did not know what the corporate center was.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
What, do you feel differently?
No?
Because you're renting for the EAA to have a flight club in the corporate center,
Right.
which the EAA has rented our airplanes for years. I have checks cashed by members of the POA renting airplanes. We have pictures at the tree with people getting their pilot's license.
I know.
Celebrating solos.
I know.
Because the corporate center, and I never got a cease and desist, because I talked to the people that wrote the rules and said you can't do that because the corporate center has different rules and regulations. When I brought that up to you, you said I didn't know that. As a president, you should.
No. I said I didn't know that terminology, the corporate center.
Are you dictating that we cannot rent airplanes out of our hangars at the corporate center?
Yeah, I don't think you can rent a hangar here. It's a commercial
No,
operation.
airplanes out of the corporate center.
Oh, an airplane out of the corporate center.
I have a lot of Daniel Webster saying you can only rent to members of the community. I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. Nobody from outside. That's fine.
Actually, over the course of 3 years, the letters
Okay.
changed. It went
So
from.
can I rent to you, to your EAA people? Can I rent to,
Members of the.
members of the, out of my corporate center that says, which I showed you, or similar, because I know you got a thing just against me, and that's fine. I feel every year.
Do you guys have an HOA with that corporate center? Is that, you have a homeowners association?
I have a condo in here, and I own 2 corporate center hangars.
I'm asking what the corporate center is. Is it a
Well, why don't I
HOA?
tell you?
Come on, Billy. Is it a,
You read the rules, I sent them to you. And when I asked Marla, who wrote the rules,
Yeah, I
she
don't
says, the lawyer
remember
knows
getting it.
better than this.
okay, so we've had a consensus that some people want to stay and understand what's in this document. You care. So if you're not interested in seeing what we put in these documents, this is your chance to put a seed in our mind of what you think it should be. That's what we want to know.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Can I rent to my friends and neighbors? Only members. I've been told this by Jim.
Just asking a simple question.
You
Yeah,
can.
that is a simple question, and the simple answer is the PUD does not sanction airplane rentals. They sanction,
May I read to you from your PUD that you're referring to?
okay,
This is on book 4071, page 4320. Permitted uses. Subject to the general use restrictions for commercial areas set forth below, areas designated as commercial may be used for the following uses or similar uses, and their customary accessories, uses, and structures. General offices, aircraft storage, which shall be restricted to hangars and tie-down areas only. Aircraft sales and services, including the sale, repair, maintenance, and assembly of aircraft, aircraft parts, and related electronic avionics equipment. Fixed-base operators, commercial store, post office, or retail specialty shop. There is, and this is in one area of commercial area. There's another area that lists commercial area, it says the same thing, but it includes a restaurant.
right.
It says similar uses.
You're exactly right.
Similar uses.
Right.
It's not limited.
Well, it is, I would disagree that it's not limiting. It is limiting. These are the... Okay, listen, guys.
Hey, Jay, one last question. Why is it so important to do that?
I like your idea. I like your idea. Okay? Now, if anybody wants to know what I have in this document, stay around. If you're not interested, you're free to...
What about the emotion?
This is not, this isn't, no. We cannot vote on something here. We cannot vote on something here because we don't have a quorum. Okay?
This is a workshop, not a board meeting.
This is a workshop, this is not a board meeting. I told you I like your idea and I will implement it.
I understand, but I don't know you, and I can't trust what anybody says until I see it actually happening. And it's not because I wouldn't trust you, I just don't know.
So what would you like me to do to make you satisfied tonight?
Just to say we will.
We will form a committee.
Yeah, and this is obviously for the community at large. The issue I have is we're at the low point on the population of Spruce Creek here. Most of the people have gone off, northeast and everywhere else. So why are we going to have a workshop at a point in time in which there are far fewer constituents to participate. That doesn't make any sense. I say make a motion if I can, rule to delay this until November when we have everybody present to have a constructive workshop.
Okay, we have already decided to do that.
No, we want to table this whole thing. We should have this when there are more people around. You know, I've talked to neighbors who are new to the area. They don't even know any of this is going on.
I know one about it. The only reason I know because Ron told me, because I didn't. Joe, we're putting this on the shelf, right? And this is going to just tell us what's going on, right? It's on the shelf. We don't need to debate this. Just present it to us.
If you're not interested in seeing what we've got here, have a good evening. Okay, we can do this one of two ways. This is the index of the document, and if you're interested in one particular area, we can go over that. If you want to see it all, we can go through every single page, and let me show you what they look like. So this is what the document looks like. It's the text of that index item, and I have highlighted those words or phrases that are operative for the particular category. Okay, what was the problem here? I'm sorry. You can't hear me. Okay. What was your problem? What did you say? Okay. Okay, so the first section in this document, as well as in the 2018 document, were general comments. Most of it is pretty straightforward. For example, offensive uses are prohibited. An annoyance or a nuisance to the neighborhood will not be tolerated. Firearms, there shall be no discharging of firearms. Come on, please, guys. Some people want to hear this. Please be quiet. Please be quiet. Some people want to hear this. Construction dumpsters shall be admitted during construction, otherwise no. Okay? That's the first general.
Sir, there was an omission on the first one, offensive use prohibited. Why was no commercial activity of any nature shall be permitted within residential areas at any time? Why was that omitted from the 18 to this one?
It's in the document later on. What it says is you can do a personal business in your home as long as it doesn't spread out into the community.
So you changed it?
It's always been there. It's just in a different place.
So you changed it?
No, I think it's the same as it's always been. Okay, talks about containers, bulk trash, that kind of thing. This is the infamous 24 hours after collection, you have to have your green bucket taken out of the street. Nobody's going to bitch on that. Here's the home occupation.
The county already has an ordinance that has almost that specific wording. Why do we have to have this in the rules and regulations?
Well, this might have gone in before the county had that.
I think the county's had it.
Okay, then I don't know why it's there.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I don't know. There's an addition here, 720.3045, which is a county rule that says you can't, POAs can't limit what people put in their yard if it can't be seen. So, example, if you've got a really hideous statue that you don't like, or maybe you do like it, it's okay as long as nobody else can see it. Nobody's got bad statues now. Security. This lays out the security rules, which you probably all know. Between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., your guests can just come to the gate. They need to be identified as your invitee. Invitees must also have a knowledge before the arrival of all of our rules. And that's about it. Any invitee must also affirmatively acknowledge before arrival by either email or instruction that they know the rules. And this is really your job if you invite somebody out to tell people what the rules are that they're expected to live by. These are for short-term visits up to 14 days, but longer periods can be approved by the POA. And this was in the Rules and Regulations 2018. Okay, vehicular access point. There shall only be 2 vehicular or pedestrian access points. We found out that people were accessing the community from areas that didn't have fences or had fences that were inadequate. So this rule says there's 2, and we have to do this for the security guys, because the security guys that we pay a lot of money to, they need to know when people are coming in the gate. And they can't come in from outside. Shouldn't. That, by the way, was new text. Vehicles and roads, you know the posted speed limits. You're supposed to stop at all stop signs. Interesting thought, isn't it? Traffic must slow at golf cart crossings, and they define 2 types of vehicles, Type A and Type B. Type A are vehicles that go on the street, your car, your truck. Type B are your onesie board or a golf cart. Let's see, Type B, that's Type A. Type B are bicycles, trikes, roller skates, inline skates, one-wheelers, unicycles, and 2 or 3 wheel bicycles. What?
Golf carts from Type A.
They're Type A, you're right, I'm sorry.
But I have a question. The insurance requirements on the Type A golf cart, is that new, or is that in there before?
My question is, do
Yeah.
you have a version with all the changes, where all the changes come up? Because it's very difficult, there are different versions.
Yeah, I'm sorry if no, that was not it. It's there all the time. Okay. And that was in the old rules and regulations. I can't hear your word. I don't think we had an insurer, did we, for a golf cart? $10,000. No, I did not bring that with me. We have that version, but I didn't bring it with me. Because it's been provided on the website for the last 3 weeks.
I need to see the changes from the original document to the document.
Well, yeah. Yeah, we didn't have that. That's right, we didn't have that. Okay, we didn't have that because there's 10 documents that we've been watching for the last 35 years, and we didn't have all that information to draw the red line from the original document.
Perhaps a version to the one which we started with. This would be helpful.
That is on the website. It's called,
They are not to the first version, they are different versions.
okay.
All golf carts need to be insured up to $10,000.
Right. Liability insurance. If you got a golf cart, that's probably covered by your auto policy, isn't it? No? So, Miss, you as a lawyer, would you advise your clients not to have a policy on a golf cart? Okay, well, when you're in charge of the committee, you can bring that up. Okay, so that's the answer from the lawyer, that they have to be insured. Oh, if they're street legal. Okay, well, we have those here. Mine doesn't either. Okay, calm down, please. Can you walk forward a little bit? I'm sorry, I'm just... Okay, there's one comment here that we have said that you have to be 16 years of age to drive a golf cart alone. Next slide, 16. 14 with somebody watching you.
Hey, everybody, it's really hard to hear anything because everybody sounds like this.
Okay, minimum age for the driver I just talked about.
It's 6 and 7.
None of the above, things like no exposed vehicles, no boats, no trailers, no golf carts, recreational vehicles, car trailer, motorcycle trailers. You can have them in the front of your yard if you're working on them, or there's some maintenance going on, but you can't leave it out at night. Right. In fact, that's an important statute that is new. Yeah, there's a big change that said if you have something in your yard that can't be seen outside of your yard, then the POA can't prohibit it. Right. Right. And I think we've got that in here somewhere.
Hey, Jay, we can't hear the questions being asked. So
Okay.
it's a one-way dialogue right now, so if you could repeat the question.
Okay. The other mic doesn't work, so if you want to ask a question, you're going to have to come up here.
Jay, these documents, you call them living documents. The problem is they change so often. nobody knows what really the latest document is. Can we put on the bottom of the pages and date them and timestamp them or something like that? Because I had this issue the other day. I asked you a question about something, and you said it's not in there anymore. I said, I can just download it.
Right. This is written on the 22 May revision.
Okay, but at the bottom of the page,
Got it.
can we put that there? So
Got it.
everybody knows they have the latest.
Got it. It's a good comment.
Repeat the comment. Repeat the comment.
The question was, could we put a number, a date number on the bottom of the document? And I said, yes, that's a great idea. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about invitees later. Runways. Stay off the runways. Neither members nor tenants may grant non-resident invitees any access or use of the Spruce Creek Airport runways, taxiways, or with other, except as provided herein. And that's the invitee policy. So you can invite anybody you want to the creek, okay? Whether they're coming in a car or an airplane. But if they're coming in an airplane, you have to register the airplane on the POA website. That says, here's when you're coming in, here's the tail number, and then it's all automatic.
Real quick, Jay, I went through the 1991, I didn't see it, and I've got it right here. I never saw any language that you had to register on site. It's just like if I saw Chris over there and I said, hey Chris, come on and see me, that's all I'd have to say. And guess what? It also says that in the DOT too.
Last year, they
Right, okay, there's two things going on here. Robert, he's talking about inviting people in without going to the website, right?
Right, and what I'm saying was you can't put a rule unless you had 90% if it affects the airport.
This was,
If you did that last year, it's not valid.
got it.
So,
Okay,
let me respond to that, Jay. We spent a lot of time as a community talking about this for all the pilots.
Did you get the vote in the
Let me answer the question. Shut up for 5 seconds.
You'll tell us where it is?
Okay, so what we discussed is what's easier for the community. Do you want a person that you verbally, if you make a mistake and verbally say it wrong, you're liable. If they go to the website and they click on the website, the person signing is liable. So it makes the liability of all the people here. So it was a much easier resolution to the
90% vote.
Okay, then why do we have a board if 90% have to vote on every single thing?
It's a statute.
Okay, you know that is a conveniency thing. Okay, if everybody wants to sign for everybody and you hold liability, do it. This is an easier way to do it. It's what it's called. It's a like DocuSign. Okay, it's like DocuSign. It's a way of doing it easier. We can take a vote here, and there's got to be some sort of representative vote. You can't get 90%
It was
of the
what
country
the
to vote on it.
Everybody's got to be here.
implemented.
You can't get 90%.
You can't get it.
Robert, stop. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I am Billy O'Brien, and I have been on the reclamation committee. So I had to pick up all the airplanes that have crashed here over the last 20 years. There's been king airs in the pond. We call it citation pond for a reason. Most recently, I think me and Jackie picked up a Malibu that went between two trees that we couldn't fathom how these people lived. Was there any liability against our airport when those happened? The King Air ran out of gas in front of my hangar, took off, hit the condos, and ended up in a pond. That was before you were here. For sailboats. We picked that up. We had to cut the wings off of it. Nobody said anything. The citation in the pond. I spent my whole vacation. I was taking my kids out. Got that airplane out of the pond. Nobody ever went against Spruce Creek flying. There was a yak that crashed here, me and Sal picked it up. There was nothing that was ever going to.
So-
Recent Malibu, no one's ever come across.
Let me use your logic for a second, Billy, and say, we've never been sued, so we're never going to be sued.
Well, no, that's not the logic. I'm an insurance adjuster.
Right.
All have liability insurance.
And it's not gonna protect you.
Insurance.
What's going to protect you is that if you're not negligent in caring for this airport and and following certain guidelines that the airport has with the FAA or FDOT or whatever it is, you are not gonna be found negligent. You would have to be, as a POA, found negligent for the behavior of yourself if something crashes.
She is exactly right.
So
I appreciate you saying it.
Occurs by an invitee or not invitee, it could be anybody just
Right.
right into this airport
Right.
without anybody inviting them.
Right.
Who's gonna stop them from doing that? You know, I mean, there isn't any like air police here.
So let me take this philosophy and extend it to what we think we're doing on aircraft. We had said that we are going to institute the invitee policy that FDOT had told us to do. And that,
He does not advise on that. They are only licensing.
well, the letter sure sounds like it does.
I've talked to them. This is why we need a committee.
Got it.
I mean, I understand. The lawyer is saying this makes it easy.
We got it.
Okay. You know what? I've heard enough to get to it.
We
I live here as well.
okay. There's about 3 pages here that touch base with the ARC. Does everybody understand that the Architectural Review Committee has a vote on whether your project is adequately planned out? Does anybody have that doubt? And everybody knows that you got to go to the Architectural Review Committee when you got to have a tree taken down, when you have to have some work done on the drainage. Everybody got that, right? Okay. There are people that don't. Okay, this is going to rile some people up. Animals. You can't have any animals like livestock or poultry being raised or bred here. And the animal cannot threaten, growl, or attack or harass other animals or people. So everybody takes this to mean if my dog barks, somebody's going to take it away. No. If your dog barks and your neighbor doesn't mind, fine. If your dog barks and your neighbor minds, then that's breaking a rule. Okay, hang on. The message here is the rules are if your dog bothers your neighbor, that's a problem. Right. Listen, we're not going to go after, the POA isn't going to do any enforcement action unless one of your neighbors has a problem. Okay? And by the way, we do authorize that dog leashes can be the electronic ones now. Okay? In specified areas. Okay, so this first one is if your dog is barking, growling, screaming, and that bothers your neighbor, great. Great, thanks for that. Sub-declarations, like some of the HOAs can put other requirements on your animals. So there are some HOAs that put more stringent rules on your animals. Okay, I have 2 pictures on 2 slides on signs because the sign policy changed slightly from PUD to PUD. Okay? Generally, the policy is no signs, flags, banners, or pennants displayed so it can be seen outside your property. The newer signs say that no sign of any type may be displayed from any window, glass door, or patio door. So the bottom line here is the same. The bottom line here is the same for signs that it is for dogs. If you've got a sign that bothers your neighbor, then you shouldn't have it. Okay, now there's a new.
Hey, shut up! Thank you.
There's a new Florida statute, 720-3075. A member may display up to 2 portable removable flags as described in the statute, which are basically the American flag, let's get here, the Florida flag, U.S. military branches, POW MIA flag, and the statute requires us to accept those signs. Hope nobody has a problem with that. Parking. You should not park on the road, but it's acknowledged here that there are times when you can't avoid that. Okay?
Does that go for landscapers too?
Yeah, I would say we wish, yeah. But if you want landscaping, you can tell the landscaper to move his truck down to an open area. And that's what I would do. The only thing I see on my property for the landscaper is the mowers going back and forth. And the home truck isn't there anywhere. There's a new statute here, 723-18, that applies to first responder vehicles. If you have a first responder vehicle, person who has a vehicle, then he's allowed to have his, whatever it is, ambulance or whatever, in his driveway because he may have to go respond to something. So that's a state thing. Okay, there's a section here which basically comes out of the state statute. I think it's 720.305, and it's how you handle fines and suspensions. There are things that the POA can fine you for, but they can only fine you $100 10 times. Okay? There are things that suspensions we can give you. None of them are permanent. Some of them are as appropriate. What?
It said that there was, after your 4th airport violation, there was a permanent ban.
Oh, does it?
It does.
Well, it takes a 90%
Absolutely. Which, by the way, as long as we're on this, is a restriction of the use of the airport, which requires 90%.
Okay, let me tell you what, since I've been on the POA for 6 years, we have never used this. We don't think that's a way to correct things, so we'll use personal contact, we'll use cajoling, and so this exists. We are required to have this by the state, but I haven't seen it used yet. And there's a lot of it. Okay, this next section is airport operations. This was this is done by the AAC, the Airport Advisory Committee, and this was adopted by the Board of Directors in 1991. Members of Spruce Creek and their authorized tenants have a non-exclusive easement of enjoyment for the normal use of the taxiways, runways, and common areas of Spruce Creek. Okay, so that means that members and invitees actually also can use the airport if they're authorized. Now, how do you get authorized? Okay, I'm going to condense some stuff into a couple of thoughts here. let's say you've got a commercial hangar and you're parking 2 or 3 individuals' airplanes there. You've leased them a space in your airplane, in your hangar. Okay? What that leasor has to do is has to bring in to the POA your lease from those people. And you have to state in there that they're authorized to use the runway, the airport environment. Okay? So that didn't used to be the case. It used to be that the commercial airplane owner could only authorize one person to use that airport that's in that hangar. We've changed that now to encompass the airplanes that you've got in the hangar. So if you've got 3 airplanes there, you can authorize 3 pilots to use those airplanes on the field. The only thing you have to do is you have to tell the POA that you're doing it. Because if you don't tell us you're doing it, we have no idea if they are authorized to use the airport. Okay, and there's a specific authorization to use the airport. Everybody understand that?
I agree, and you asked that I have to send a footprint out for the airplanes. When hurricanes come, me and Jim Stone got together, we put 9 airplanes in my hangar. We took clubs and put them up on the end, and we put ladders under low wings. And I think we put like 7 or 8 airplanes in my hangar for the community for free.
Okay, but you're not operating them out of there. You're just storing them. Right, got it. I don't see there's a problem with that, Billy.
But they were asking for a footprint, and I had a problem with that. I'm like, how many airplanes can I put in my hangar? I'll hang them off the ceiling. Which somebody does it here down on Windy Loop. Yes, there's more than one person, so how many? I was just wondering about that.
That's an emergency.
I wouldn't worry about that. So, the rights to use Spruce Creek Airport. This is kind of what I'm referring to. A member can use all the amenities here. A tenant, if he's authorized by the person he's leasing the hangar from, can use all the airport facilities here, as can an invitee. Okay? Now, the question I always get is, well, why do I need to have an invitee? Why don't I have to have an invitee letter to be downwind? Because we don't rule cars, we just rule airplanes with these, okay? Cars.
So all the people that fly into the cafe have to do all that?
We don't, the cafe does not invite people to the cafe.
Okay, so when they fly in,
They're not supposed to be able to fly in if they haven't filed the invitee and been invited by somebody.
The cafe does have it on their website that you need to contact the POA.
Right,
The cafe has that.
yeah.
Excuse me, sir. How far in advance do you have to notify yours?
How far do you have to notify? That's a good question. The day before would be fine. If you forgot and did it today, you're probably okay. It's all automated, so. Did I miss that one? If you do it before you arrive, you're going to be okay.
One of the things was I went online and I brought somebody in, they were coming in, they called me and said, hey, I want to bring an airplane, and I went online and I registered it. I don't mind that, everyone, I don't. You gotta show your license to come in Spruce Creek. I like that. I wanna know who's here. As a repo man, by law, I have to have 2 separate things of security that repossession airplanes in here. And so I don't mind that at all. It's a very simple thing. And when you guys said go online and register the airplane, I'm like, I love it. So I went online and it said you are approved. I asked, who is approving me to bring my customer? And they went, ooh, that's an automatic response. I'm like, no, it says you are approved. And we asked about that. Who is approving me to have my customers in? I have 2 commercial hangars. You are approved. I'm like, and then you're taking the responsibility for approving my customers coming in that I registered on the line with I don't mind the portal at all. You don't. But then the airport committee, they said, well, if your customers coming, have them go online and put in their VIN number and their pilot's license and where they're going. I'm like, so any swinging weirdo can just go on your website and register an airplane to my business, and I wouldn't know it. Because one day I came in here and I had it.
Okay, Billy, you have a valid point. We need to think about that, okay?
She's got an answer over
We're
there.
not gonna fix it now.
Yeah, I need to know.
Billy.
Hang on a second. It's an easy way to clarify, because the restaurant is not a homeowner which can invite somebody in. It's actually the POA and the POA manager that are approving people to come in for the restaurant, and that's why they have to go through.
Well, that's true for the restaurant, but for Billy's point,
But for Billy's point, he's actually the approving member.
right,
Whereas where it says approval, it's just approving that it got the message. It's not really making an approval for your person.
so are you worried that
Oh, yeah.
if
He's
you,
worried about liability.
you're worried about the liability? Got it.
You're saying, I came in here one day, I had to get a rental car, believe it or not,
Okay.
to fly an airplane.
We're not gonna solve that now, but it's a good point.
I think if we just provide some clarification for some of these things, when we go through them,
Right,
it'll make
okay.
it a lot easier for people to
I
understand
just have
what
it
their
come to your
rights are.
house, and it's automatically approved.
Got it. We need to look at it. And you need to look at it.
That was the whole point of it though.
Yeah.
Really what happened was we came back from being somewhere out of town working and we came
Okay.
in the front gate and they said.
I acknowledge you have an issue that has to be worked. We'll work it. And you need to work it with your insurance company too.
My insurance company, the insurance adjuster license for the state of Florida.
Okay.
I have insurance on my airplanes, how many other people doing there?
Okay, I've already talked about this.
Hey Jay, just something here. Bill, who should be the one filling out the form? Because I thought the reason we put the form on.
I don't think we care.
Yeah, you do. I thought the reason we put the form online was the visiting pilot would be able to read all the rules and acknowledge they did.
So what you're saying is, and I'm thinking this through, if the member signs the form, then the member's liable somehow?
No, the whole intention behind it was to get people to read our rules.
Right.
All it says is you've read the rules, and you're just signing you read the rules.
Right.
If Billy
Billy
does,
does
I agree.
this.
I agree with registering.
If Billy signs and does all that on the form, before the person's gonna be coming in, that person has not acknowledged via electronic receipt that
Okay.
they read the rules.
Good point.
it
I
should
have
just,
no problem with that.
Got it.
it should just be
License
pilot.
and license
Right.
plate can be legal to be in here. I don't mind that. But anybody can just walk in and say they're gonna use my commercial hangar.
Okay, one important thing here on this invitee policy and on the inviting airplanes in. We need that form filled out because we need to know that the pilots read the rules.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's gotta be by the pilot.
Got to be by the pilot. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we have a statement in here that invitees can only get approved for 14 days. It allows you to get additional days by going to the POA. Okay? And the point for that is, if you could write an invitee for 365 days. Oh, I wouldn't do that, okay, got it.
I don't want any. I don't want that either.
Jay,
Okay, these all
is this
require.
new?
Say again?
Is this new? This 14-day policy?
Most of this policy is new.
Then how is that not restricting airport access? Because that is
It's-
restricting airport
it's-
access.
no,
You're
no, 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 no.
restricting- Give me a
No,
second to
no,
talk.
no, no.
Give me a second to talk, sir. You said to be respectful to your speakers and your owners. Listen, you are restricting a member's access and members' rights to the property they paid for. Even though it's a guest, you are restricting their usage of the airport.
We're not.
Yes, you are. Where do you see that you aren't? You completely are.
No, you're not.
Yes, you
Restricting
are.
a
You
member.
are saying, Jay, you can no longer do this. It may be for your guests, they're taking that right
Oh,
away.
wait a minute, you're saying, so if he wants to come in and fire a gun, then he can do it.
That's a
Okay,
complete-
I think you're reading too much into this.
I think you're reading too much into it too, and you're reading the wrong direction. That all these members here disagree with you on. That's why everybody's here.
Does everybody disagree with the invitee policy as I've outlined it? Okay, I got no's and I got yeses.
Which means you don't have 90%.
We don't have 90% because we don't need 90%. Well, this is disturbing to me, folks. This is disturbing to me if you don't believe we have to control invitees to this airport. This is our airport. This is a private airport. If we don't control invitees coming in here, then we're letting Embry-Riddle come in and do touch and goes.
I think what he is saying is 14 day was a new, so instead of me saying.
Billy, hang on.
If my friend wanted to come and spend 3 weeks with me, before this, he could have come and spent 3 weeks with me and flown in and out of here. Now, the new restriction is, I can only invite my friend in for 2 weeks, so it is.
No, you can get. Yeah.
Why is it even in there? You made a
Why
big
is it in there?
mistake.
That's barely even race weeks in Daytona. If somebody wants to come for just the races, that's more than 14 days.
Then they can come and ask the POA.
Well, why should they have to ask this? Now you are restricting their property usage.
No, we're not.
Yes, you are. And guess what?
Do you believe that means a restriction?
Has there been a problem with the gate doing that? You know what I mean? We've always, for the last 30 years,
Here's-
you have someone for 2 weeks.
No, this is not a vehicle issue. This is an airplane issue. Right, an invitee. So, if you don't believe in the invitee policy, then somebody flying from Embry-Riddle to do touch and goes can come here without permit. And I'm telling you, that's authorized. That's completely authorized.
But if it's more than 2, I'm subject to your decision or to the POA. And if you say
No,
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 I
no.
don't like that guy,
No.
say no.
We just need to know in the POA that there's a visitor.
That's not what it
Then you
says.
say you need to notify the POA.
Hey, I was there for about
That's
for
okay.
11
But
years.
you can't say it's.
And they were never allowed to come in here. And they never will be allowed.
I think
Embry-Riddle
we
is a
just
different
agree
story.
that you bring this on to the committee to kind of hammer out.
Okay. Got it. See, I'm learning a lot here, guys. This is fine. You might not be having fun, but I am. A tenant of yours cannot invite people unless you give them that authority.
Are you gonna be a tenant of the corporate center?
Can't hear you.
Are you gonna be a tenant of the corporate center?
He's asking about the new EAA thing.
Love it.
Hey, Jay.
Okay.
Just going back to the invitee policy again. Couple questions. When approved, you're good for 14 days, correct?
Or you can ask for more.
Or you can just refill that form out.
Right.
Under what conditions would somebody not be approved? I think that's the concern a lot of people have.
So,
More of a notification.
Are we coming up for a solution for a problem that doesn't exist?
What, the invitee thing?
Yes.
Well,
Do we have a problem with it?
I have no
Has it been
problem
an
with
issue?
it.
Has it been an issue?
Yeah,
with
no,
people
there
staying
was
here
an
too long?
issue. F. Dodd said you gotta have an invitee policy.
Invitees are welcome. That's the policy.
Okay, but that's an invitee policy.
364 days a year, they gotta take it out one day. That complies.
That's exactly. Have we had a problem? My question is, have we had a problem with a visitor being here too long?
Yeah, I have people staying with me.
Okay, so we've come up with a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Right.
The problem with the registration of airplanes for visitors, as well as residents, as it was told to me, was that we want to know whose plane is where on the field for things like ELT transfers going off or accident rates. We need to know how to get in touch with that person.
That's it.
The 2 weeks. I understand that, the 2 weeks. Why are we even putting that in?
Do you have an alternative? What would you like it to be?
It's never been, nothing. It should be nothing.
You're right,
There's
there's
plenty of
no-
people in here that get guests for more than 2 weeks out of the year.
Okay. So
But
there's
why should you have to ask? He just said that it was not a problem, so we're fixing something that doesn't exist. Okay, if you wanna have an invitee policy, have an invitee policy. But why do you have to say 14 days?
So, what, can we change the form, just say they'll be here for 3 weeks? You know, we put the timeline in the form.
Why do you have to?
Okay, this is from, say again, the 91 PUD. Invitation means a specific oral or written offer to allow a specific person or persons to visit the Spruce Creek Airport with or without compensation or remuneration.
The key is oral.
Yeah, oral's okay.
Yeah, oral. We don't need a website policy and all that inside oral.
But that doesn't mean he doesn't have to fill out the
No, that's what
website.
that's what y'all do.
You invite orally, he fills out the website.
It doesn't state any of that.
No, because the website is our initiative to keep. DOT doesn't say that, no. But we say that.
But
For safety
what you're trying to say is
reasons,
that you're
it's
following
in.
DOT, and you're not following DOT. This is DOT.
We're extending DOT. Yeah, we've got our own things, we can do that.
I don't mind it.
Okay.
I don't mind anybody registering airplane. I wanna know who's here.
But it just says oral. So for the realtors,
Okay.
whenever I came here, I mean, like anybody else, the pilot, I went on and I researched the airport. I want to know about the airport before I even fly in there. Most people do that. Anybody's a pilot here, you want to do that.
You're not the norm. Ask, I don't want to throw him under the bus. Ask Jim on a weekly basis. We have 4 or 5 visitor pilots. When he asks them, I didn't read the rules. They come in straight in from Daytona. They come in all sorts of directions. I couldn't see the airport. They almost land on beach. How many times, Jim?
So Jim, who enforces somebody that screws up like that? FAA, right?
Okay, let's take this discussion offline. Let's keep going.
It's a safety thing. It's not a bad thing.
But if someone screws up,
Commercial members may extend invitations to their clients and prospective clients to be invitees, provided that they are doing business with them.
That is correct.
A commercial member is allowed to have their employees utilize the airport for commercial activities.
Can you go back one slide? Yeah. Invitations not in the form of advertising directed to the public in general, so that prohibit websites or?
Yes, it does. You're not allowed to advertise a Spruce Creek business publicly.
Absolutely. Been there forever.
Okay, so no flying cafe in the yellow pages. No Daytona Aircraft Services website anymore.
You can publish it there.
But you can't invite somebody.
Right.
Let me address it.
Go ahead.
A business that is real estate or restaurant or any other thing can invite people to drive in all this has been
invitee policy applies to airplanes in the country.
Right. What Mel's saying is the invitee policy applies to airplanes, not to vehicles, of course. Okay.
But what about the vehicle using the taxiway to the commercial area? Is this okay?
Yeah. Okay, there's some AAC policies here that I'd like to go over. There's a bunch of whereases with just the facts. They don't really add anything. Some more whereases. Okay, flying clubs, fractional ownership, or shared ownership can only be used. Say you got a buddy who shares a Piper Cup with you. He or she lives somewhere else, you live here. Only you can use that shared airplane here. Does that make sense?
No.
Why not? Why doesn't it make sense? Tell me why not. Then he's got to fly from his airport.
Yeah, but how do you get it to him?
Good question.
If you don't have a medical, what's showing what that?
Well, we can't deal with every eventuality. What if my foot was broken? Generally, if you have a shared airplane, the member that's a POA member flies here, the non-POA member flies at his airport or her airport.
The airplane is stored here, and the guy drives in to go fly it somewhere. I've got to take the plane to him.
No, you could invite him as a guest.
And then he can fly from here? No.
And he can fly from here. No, as far as I know, we're not changing. The question is, are we changing things from 100 years ago? I don't think we are. If the individual is part of your fractional ownership, but not a member of the POA, he can't fly from Spruce Creek. Now, you could invite him or her, and he or she could fly from Spruce Creek.
I understand that, but I have a copy of something before you changed it that said that if you had 50% of the people of the POA and everybody is able to fly that airplane. So that's how I came in here looking at that. So now that's being changed.
I don't remember that. I'll have to look that
You might have it
up.
on the phone, I'll give it to you later
I'll
on.
have to look that up.
Okay? That's the only thing I'm asking.
Hey Jay, just out of curiosity, this is revised wordage, right? This is new verbiage. If this is a change, again, it requires a 90% rule though.
No.
Yes, it is. It's new. It's changed. This is anything that is adding is restricting access. I think we can all agree on that.
This is not restricting anybody's access.
No
I said nothing. I didn't say anything was prohibited. I said if you've got a fractional ownership, the Spruce Creek Property Owners Association member can fly that just like he can anything. If your other partner is not a Spruce Creek property owner member, then he can't fly under that category of member. He or she could fly under that category of invitee.
And can invite, that's fine. And I
How much clearer do I need to be?
What if your partner is a corporation?
Same. Doesn't matter. We have a lot of LLCs here. A lot of them. Yeah, well, no, it's an invitee.
What if that, if a person drives it, he can drive it and exercise as part of the trip, can't he?
That person can drive in, but he can't fly unless you make him an invitee. You invite him again.
Jay, can I say something real quick?
How many times can I invite him? 14 times?
So,
We're trying I don't know.
We're trying to record this so the people that are not here will be able to go onto YouTube, watch it, analyze it, whatever. So instead of multiple questions or whatever, we're not picking up the questions on the video. So if you can, use the microphone to ask the question so that way we can hear it on the video. And our friends that aren't here as well.
thank you.
Okay, let me talk about flight training and instruction. Basically, a member or a non-member can do flight instruction of a member. Okay? You can hire a CFI to come in. You can find a CFI inside here. But you can't do flight training for compensation unless you're a member. Okay?
The student is a member, right?
Single accident, if you are taking flight instruction from a member or a non-member here, then you need to have $500,000 of accident liability.
Hey Jay, I think that needs clarification. I think you said that, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Am I not saying it right? Go ahead.
Yeah, the way you said it was a member can give instruction to a non-member for compensation. I don't.
No, I shouldn't have said that.
Okay.
Right. I say a lot of things I shouldn't have said.
So the student must be the member, is what you're saying. The student must be a member to fly here, to take instruction here.
Right. Oh, this says, nothing in these regulations shall be deemed to prohibit a member from receiving flight training from either a member or non-member.
I have to say something about that, because this is a rewrite and a restriction of the CFIs, which we didn't have before, which we don't have right now. I have the original text which we have in place right now. It says flight training of non-members, an SCPOA member holding an appropriate CFI, CFII, or other appropriate flight training rating or certificate may provide flight training for compensation to a non-member which initiates and or terminates at the Spruce Creek Airport only under the following conditions. And then we have conditions which say that you shouldn't do your emergency landings and all these things at our airport. They can meet here, they can do the briefing, they can fly somewhere else for their training, and at the end they can come back. This is not possible anymore when we have this in place, which you suggest right now. And this is a restriction to the CFIs. Actually, they can't do any training with outside people anymore here, starting here at the airport. And this will finally move those guys out of our community, and this is not a good thing. We need to have them here. We need to support them because they are important for our flight safety. We need to have CFIs and DPEs in here. And if they can't do something with an external person and start the training here, that's not good. And I don't
Okay, let me read this again.
Sure.
Nothing in these regulations shall be deemed to prohibit a member from receiving flight training from either a member or non-member.
No, he's saying that he's a member and he's a CFI, so what you do is you give the guy permission to fly in and you pick him up and you take him out and train him. That's all you gotta do, so then that's how you get around the system.
I think
You're not charging him when he comes in to get you, when you take off, you charge him.
Yeah, but we prohibit it right now. What we do right now is allowed. So if you're a CFI and
Okay.
somebody asks you for training, you can do it.
Let me read this sentence again. Nothing in these regulations shall be deemed to prohibit a member from receiving flight training from either a member or non-member.
AJ,
That's what it says.
I think we're gonna have to define member too when we go.
Oh, there is a definition of member,
Because does it?
but it was in the early part of the briefing that I didn't go
Yeah,
over.
does it include family members who live
Correct.
here?
Right.
You know,
Is my
you've
son
gotta
a
be
member?
concerned about your
Yes.
kids.
Your
because
son is a
they're-
family.
They're not
There's-
voting members.
There's a family state. The question is his son a member? And the answer is, we have this category of family, and everybody in your family gets the same rules that you get.
But you can't vote. Your voting member, the owner.
Yeah, there's only one voting member. Yeah.
One voting member per household?
One voting member per household. Per property.
Jay, we're talking about a member receiving flight training, but I was talking about a member giving flight training to somebody who is not living in here. And this is a non-member. And right now, this is allowed. They can start here, they can meet here, and they can come back at the end. They're not allowed to do their emergency stuff in here right now. But with your new regulation, you prohibit this. You say it's not allowed, that a CFI or DPE who is based in Spruce Creek can meet with his trainee in here, who is not a member, and then go somewhere else, fly, and then come back. It's not allowed. It's forbidden. And
That's right.
And this is a restriction to those people. And even if I don't want to discuss about the 90% or not. I just want to say I completely disagree with it because we have to support the CFIs. They're important to our community. And this moves them away from our community. And same is true for the DPEs. Yeah, we should include them more in what we do and safety seminars or whatever. That's important, but don't move them out of here. That's not good.
Noted. Do you know what the AAC is? Everybody got a sense of what the AAC is? Landing fee. Any person who is not a member of the association shall, as determined from time to time by the board of directors, pay a landing fee to the association for the privilege of landing at Spruce Creek. So you don't pay a landing fee. You'll never pay a landing fee. If somebody comes in here without being invited here, we reserve the right to charge them a landing fee.
Where's the money go?
Why not?
Where's the money go?
But it doesn't say that, though. It doesn't say only the people that weren't invited. It says,
Where's the money go?
No, I'm telling you that we're not going to give an invitee a landing fee. We will not do that.
That's not what it says.
Who is not a member?
Doesn't say it. Or an invitee. Doesn't say that.
I don't want that.
Oh, okay, I gotta get that in there. You're right. You're right. Okay, these should go pretty quick. Aircraft procedures. These last few charts and the last ones were not included in the 2018 version of this. We thought that since the AAC can make rules and regulations, that they should be included in this document so somebody doesn't have to look in another document. Preferred runway 24, we talked about the traffic pattern. Use of Unicom, yeah.
Helicopters can fly faster than 200 knots.
Can I go faster than 200 knots?
Good answer for you. All aircraft and pilots operating into or out of Spruce Creek must announce arrival and departure intentions and make appropriate position calls. Use of ASOS. Members should use ASOS if they.
We weren't looking up something. That means every airplane has to have a radio.
If every plane needs to make position calls, then we're requiring every airplane to have a radio.
which I love the idea, but I know that's not something we normally anticipate.
Yeah, we should have a should instead of must there. That's a good one.
So the suggestion on rule number 3 would be, it says all our pilots operating at Spruce Creek must announce, basically if radio equipped.
Right.
That's the only thing. So if you just put like an if statement in there, then that'll pretty much
Well,
get
what I would do is I would change that word to should.
Yeah.
And then
I would
in
actually-
the FAA's view, you
Yeah.
don't need to do
No, I
it.
understand, but
Can we make it like that we encourage pilots to have a radio in the handheld form? Because it's really important. It's really important that even the people who have no radio.
Right, the question
use
is,
some kind of-
should we tell people that we want them to use the ASOS?
We should put some pressure on the people
Okay.
using a radio, because
it.
this is very important at that crowded airport.
Got it. Taxiway speeds, licensed aircraft only, formation flying, we're still can't do takeoffs and landings. Straight in, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, okay? I am not the police here, right? Okay? Not the police. I look like the police, but not. Straight in approaches are discouraged.
Jake, can I ask a
And
question?
these are enforcements, yeah.
There was some rumor of Spruce Creek having association with Vector that collects landing fees. I was just curious if there's some truth to that. And if so, how much we're going to pay for that service versus how much we're going to collect in fees, and just kind of get the overall what we're trying to gain from using that service if we are.
Which
looking at-
Jim? I don't think we pay for tower.
What's the question?
Vector.
So is the question, are we gonna use a third party to collect?
Correct.
So the whole purpose of the landing fee is to discourage anyone not invited from using our airport. That's it. We're not using Bird Tower to go after these people. It hasn't even been approved yet. I think it's still in work, but the idea was thrown out. You know, if you say, hey, I think I'll just pop into the restaurant and have a meal, you might get a $100 landing fee because you weren't invited and you used our runway. And that's a members only and their guests. As simple as that.
Do we think there's any use in doing that when nobody's going to pay the bill and we're just wasting money sending them out?
Don't know. I have no experience with that.
Yeah.
Just a comment as a member of the AAC. I don't know where that one wonderful rumor came from. It is a rumor that is not generated from the AAC. Period. And we are not using anyone at all. We're not going to be automating that. That has not been discussed in the least.
But didn't Jim just say they're going to start looking into it?
We can look into it, but the AAC has not prompted that. It has not been discussed by the AAC. It is a no point at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, this is before driving a truck or RV to your hangar, you need to get permission from the security guys at the POA. Sometimes they don't have a rover, and if it's straightforward, they may let you go without it. But you got to check it with the POA, the security guys, before you have somebody drive to your hangar over the taxiways. I mean, if getting to your hangar can be done on the city streets, then that's fine. Yeah, I think you can drive on Cessna. No, that's not a problem. No. Well, it's a road, so. Yeah. Okay, this is something else that we're trying to do here, and that's develop an emergency contact list. We have a lot of airplanes here that if you look up their FAA registration, they're in Delaware. Okay, if that airplane comes here a lot, then we don't have any way of identifying where that person is when their ELT goes off. Or if the FAA calls and says, hey, November 1234 hasn't reported, where is he? Because it's registered in Delaware, so we look up Delaware address and it doesn't get us anything. So this is, we would like everybody to use this process. That's just what we just talked about. This is the emergency contact information that we're looking for. You know, we want to be able to answer the FAA's question if they say November XYZ isn't reporting in, where is he? Probably in his hangar in bed or something like that. But if we don't know that, then they're going to start a search. Okay, and the rest is just okay. Okay, so as I said, we know we had a problem getting to where we got. Okay, we acknowledge that fact. We want to do better. This was part of doing better. Okay, I like your idea of having a working group, a limited working group, and so we'll use that process. Okay. What else? Right.
I want to preface my remarks by saying that I once walked in your shoes as an officer of an HOA in California, so I know what it's like. And I do feel your pain in some regard. In other aspects, I feel this entire process, as I've observed it so far over the last month, some of the pain you're receiving from the membership is self-inflicted. And I don't even want to go into line item by line item.
Okay, if you're just going to give me a critique of what I didn't do right, we're done.
I get to it. I promise, and I promise to be short as well. I want to point out 3 areas of this entire process that I find somewhat flawed, at least up to this point. The first observation is that the documents, as they are right now, have a complete lack of structure. So before we even go on to creating new documents, new rules and regulation, we need to start organizing our existing documents. That is not the case right now at all. If I, as a new homeowner, come in and say, I want to see the governing documents of this POA, I'm usually referred to the website. If I go to the website under documents, and I kid you not, you can go in and look at it yourself later. The POA website has at least 4 separate pages containing a hodgepodge of at least 26 documents. That's just my count. I might have miscounted because there are so many. Documents, resolutions, various amendments over time, using random naming conventions, documents types without any sensible groupings or chronological order. I have a printout here from the website, but you can easily access that yourself. In addition to that, you have the airport section of the website, containing its own 4 subpages of various operating procedures that may or may not be in sync with the current rules or regulations, much less the proposed ones. There should be exactly 1 Articles of Incorporation document. There should be exactly 1 bylaws document. There should be exactly 1 C&R document and exactly 1 rules and regulations document, all easily accessible. That is not the case right now. And the current effort, which is inadequately titled Consolidated Rules and Regulation, are anything but consolidated. The rules have grown from what used to be 8 pages to 41 pages. That's just the PDF document in and of itself. But if you take a closer look, it's not one single harmonized document.
Okay, got it.
No,
Please sit down. I got it. I don't agree with what you've laid out. We will form this team to go look at it, and they will, I'm sure, do better than we did. Thank you very much.
I wasn't completely finished.
Yeah, yes, you were. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Why did we skip over the last 3 pages really quickly and not go over them like we did the other document?
Say that again.
Why did we skip over the last 3 pages so quickly and not go over them?
The last 3 slides.
The last 3
Why did we skip over them without going over them?
Well, I didn't think there was anything of interest there. No trespassing on operational areas of the airport.
Aircraft rental and leasing. I don't flight train. I do lease or rent aircraft, and I have in here for almost 8 years. And there's never been a problem, and I got served 3 different documents. The first one saying that there had to be at least 1 member in the airplane. The next one I got was...
Okay, the question is, she has done flight training or
No flight training, rental.
Rental here, and the PUD doesn't allow rental, so she received.
It does not prohibit it anywhere in the PUD. The POA.
I think you're right, but it doesn't allow it. It says these are the authorized uses of Spruce Creek, and it's not there. Now, whether we agree with that or not is a
Whether
good
the
question.
interpretation of similar is different on your part or ours.
Okay, the wording is very specific. These are the authorized uses.
It's not very specific because it says or similar. So it's pretty broad.
You know what, when they created these documents, this was a really small foot, you know, it was just hangers and people came down or, you know, one to fly. And
I think they were trying to anticipate the growth. And they were trying to anticipate growth in other areas too, where maybe people who don't fly but love the flying around them and that type of thing came into play. So that's why they kind of left it open to a certain extent. So it's not specific.
As an attorney, if I have the word similar in there, that's completely wide open.
Well,
The only one that's gonna win with that is the attorneys.
Well, exactly, and you know what, they're gonna have to duke it out, and then it's gonna cost the POA a whole bunch more money than we're already paying for everybody.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that people just need to be reasonable, and using an attorney every time you think somebody has done something, in violation, even if it's not even in violation, is the wrong way to handle this. I mean, we're spending a fortune on an attorney, and no offense to the attorney, I mean, he's doing what he's been hired to do.
Right.
But the problem is that we've got volunteers that are working on a board, and there's a reason why they're volunteers, so that we don't overspend people's money, because we need to work on things that are more important, like flooding. And on matters that we don't have any control over for the most part. And so, that is open-ended, and attorneys can duke it out, and we can lose on it as well, because the wording is not clear. And you've got a lot of Federalists in the courts now, and if it's not clear, it doesn't exist. So, serving them is not, it's not helping the community, and it's
Okay,
not.
we're gonna fix that. You're gonna fix that, right? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, here. Could you tell us how much we've spent so far in legal fees on this particular project?
I can tell you how much we've spent on the lawyer, but the lawyer is doing more than just this. You bring up the flooding issue. I spend 10 times more time on that community than I spend on this community.
But we need to
Right.
things like this development that's going on, it's gonna hurt us. You know, if it continues the way it is, we are gonna have to find a way to
Got it.
so that we don't have to.
Got it.
It was $2,949 on creek crossing at $75,000.
That's what I thought.
It's 76, so I'm 76.
You can't go backwards. You can't go backwards. You have
Right.
to go forward.
Okay, listen, we're having a good conversation here. Why don't we end the workshop? And we've got notes. Sue's taken all the notes. We will use those notes to figure out what we do with this document.
Mr. Chairman, before we close, specifically tell us how much we've spent.
He just told you.
I want to hear.
$75,000.
No, that was on,
Minus 20.
that was on all of his work with us.
Well, you have to use a lawyer for the foreclosures. I mean, obviously, and I've done
Right.
a lot of research on how many foreclosures we've had, usually about 10 years. So you gotta go after, you have to go after the liens on the properties for the maintenance.
Right.
And so, yeah, those are gonna be court processes, and if you don't have somebody working on the court processes, I mean, you're not gonna recover your money.
Right.
So that's understandable, and probably 99% of what we go through in court proceedings is just foreclosures on liens. The rest of it, for 30 years, there's been maybe 3 or 4 cases outside of that.
Right. So this community spent a lot of money, gave a lot of money to John Travolta because the people that were running the POA,
Made a lot of mistakes.
they lost.
Yeah, they should have lost because
They
they
should
made a
have
bad
lost.
decision.
Bingo. They should have
That
lost.
was a board that made some very bad decisions on a very easy case for Travolta to win.
Bingo. I didn't want to repeat that.
Well, it's just true. I mean, you can. It's public record. It's easy to look
Okay,
at the records.
we're done, guys.
It's 100,000 in the last month.
Say again?
It's 100,000 last month. Tom pulled it up.
No.
It's only 82,000.
Okay.
Just another point, which you missed. One point was that there are no for sale signs allowed at golf carts or at cars or any other thing. You didn't mention that.
That's what the sign policy says. Let me finish. That's what the sign policy says. Everybody sells a golf cart and they put a sign on it. As long as your sign isn't offensive, you can do that.
But why should we write it in the...
Because that's the way our predecessors wrote the rules.
We can just move it with the new one. If we change lots of things, then we can just throw it in.
Okay, we're done. Everybody can leave.